There we go. All right, welcome everybody to our first StreamKeeper training. This is an interest training. So what it is this is going to um, tell everybody what the program is and the ins and outs of the program and whether they'd like to move forward with it and or how much they would like to get involved in this program. Um, go ahead and get over here. There we go. Whoops. So here is part of our team that will be working on this. This is, I'll start from left to right. So Sam Rames is our AmeriCorps water quality coordinator. Sam is under the weather today, and she wishes she could be here with us, but she's not. Sam is directly responsible for the program and does all the day-to-day work on our trash trout program and all of our water quality programs. Chelsea Rath, who is our community engagement coordinator. Uh, Chelsea's on the front end of all of our communications that comes in from our community. She helps put together our major events, our special events that we do for the organization. So you'll see a lot of communication from Chelsea. And then of course myself, Eric Bradford. I'm our director of operations. And when I am not behind a desk, I like to be out in the water somewhere. So a little background on the organization for those of you that are new. Asheville GreenWorks has been around for 47 years. This coming Earth Day will be our 48th year of being in the area. Our organization, we are a nonprofit environmental organization. Our program areas are water quality, urban forestry, and waste reduction. And each of you might know the organization for different parts of that. Some people know us only for the tree work we do. Some people only know us for the waste reduction, like for instance, our hard to recycle events that we manage and the recycling education and composting education that we do for the area. But today we're going to talk more specifically about water quality and how our organization has spent the last coming up on 48 years of figuring out what we call the path of trash. So we know where the trash is coming from. We know how it's getting in our waterways, and we need to make a huge change. To try to take this back. You know, this is something that I'm sure that all of you are painfully aware of. As soon as you jog, walk, drive your car, go any place, you look and our roadsides are completely covered in trash. And that is because North Carolina has extremely weak legislation when it comes to litter laws. So part of the effort of Stream Keepers in the upcoming months is going to be a directed effort to speak directly to law enforcement about getting more involved in writing citations. As of last year, the Asheville Police Department, and I'm not picking on anybody, it's just they're very good at making their data public. They wrote 5 citations in 10 years for littering. And the reason why I bring that up is because the Buncombe County Sheriff's Department and the Asheville Police Department are the only 2 governing bodies that are allowed to write citations in Buncombe County for any sort of litter violation. So illegal dumping, trashing, any of those sort of violations. So we want to have a better relationship, obviously, with these agencies to make sure that these citations are written, because if you know you could speed and you would never get a ticket for it, guess what? We'd be speeding everywhere we went. But the reason why we don't speed a lot of times is because we do not want to be pulled over. We do not want an infraction. We don't want points on our license. So we're asking for the same sort of thing for our environment. The number one source of litter comes from waste haulers. So this is a nationwide fact. This isn't something we found out our own. Waste haulers with improperly loaded trash. This is where most of the trash is coming from, about 90% of the trash you see out on the roads. The other 10% is what's called intentional and unintentional littering. And what that means is you've got Mike Desvonic driving down the road. He's done with his cookout milkshake, and he decides to throw his cup out the window. And then there's also the unintentional littering. That's where someone has put trash in the back of their vehicle and it's not stored correctly and it blows out. So we do know where the trash is coming from. And so we developed a device back in 2017 to sit in our waterways to capture this trash, because once it gets on the side of the road, it's a very short amount of time between when it's picked up by the next rainstorm, pushed into a storm drain, and then into our local creek. And then all of those creeks lead into our river. So we designed this device we call Trash Trout. It sits and it floats in a creek. It captures the stormwater debris every time it rains, and then we keep this from entering our waterways. The program has been hugely successful for the organization. We have several traps in the water. We have several more that we're building to put in. But with COVID right now, we're having a tough time of keeping up with the all of the devices because of the restrictions of our gathering groups of volunteers together to maintain these. So we want to train a group of people who are interested to not only maintain these traps, but to have a voice for water quality in our region. And so this is not just a clean out program. This is going to be multi-layered. We can go with this as far as you want. If you only want to be a part of just the cleanup effort, you can be a part of that. One great thing about our program that we've initiated is you take it as far as you want to go with it. So you put as much time into this as you want. We have two of our tree keepers that's on the call, Philip Blockland and Mike Desvonic, and it's the same program for them. You know, they decide how much time and effort they want to put into the program. And so that'll be the same with this. We're going to give you the tools if you have the time to be able to make a change in our local ecology. So normally in a typical year, our organization runs over 220 projects a year. And that doesn't include someone going out and just doing their own litter cleanup with our tools. This is our projects that we're running specifically. And out of those, you'll have about, anywhere from 35 creek cleanups and 40 river cleanups and about 120 roadside cleanups, and out of our river alone, we'll get about 60,000 pounds of trash. Most of that trash is coming in from floods. So every time we have a flood in the area, it picks up all that trash out of people's yards and properties and pulls it into the river. The instances of people illegally dumping is going down as far as illegally dumping in the French Broad River, but there's still people who do it. And we're working with local agencies to catch people when this happens. So we wanted to kick off this program to give our residents a voice so that they can make this huge change that has to happen for our area. So I just want a quick overview of Asheville GreenWorks French Broad Litter Prevention Program. So it's a big program. It has a lot of programs underneath it. And at the very top, you see our very newest program, StreamKeeper. And under that goes into our river, creek, and roadside cleanups, as I mentioned before, running about 70 of those river and creek cleanups a year and about 120 roadside cleanups. Our organization, we have a fleet of boats. We have a fleet of rafts, canoes, and kayaks that we use to go out into the waterways. One of the benefits of being a stream keeper and going through our training program is you can access all that equipment. So even if you don't own a boat, or if you own a boat that's too nice to fill up full of trash and tires, you can buy our gear whenever you need it. We have our Adopt a Street program, which has been around for quite so many years. This is where you can adopt a city-owned street in the city of Asheville, and you do your cleanups on it, and you get a sign that says, "This road is adopted by Terry Scholl," for instance. The neighborhood that I live in, and my good friend Scott Mulam, who's on the email here as well, or on the presentation, we live in Inca Village, and we have our roads adopted here, which is really nice. It's an easy program, just 6 cleanup a year, and it's a great way we can get people involved in their neighborhood as well. We also do restoration projects, which is really a lot of fun to do. We usually work with Riverlink and Mountain True to help them do those projects. Our organization maintains a live stake nursery. So we have a regular tree nursery, but we also have a live stake nursery. This is a nursery specifically for wetland plants and trees, where we harvest those plants and we're able to put them into different locations in the waterways that helps to maintain those banks and other places. It's a super fun project. We also host the Needle-Free Waterways Project, which is where we illegally installed sharps containers all over the region. And these are sharps containers that cannot be broken into, because we have seen such a jump in people dumping syringes and needles after use that we had to do something about it. We had to do something. So we started installing these outdoor sharps containers, and we have seen a huge drop in the amount of needles in these areas because of it, because we understand that this is a pandemic that's going across the United States right now. And we have a very punitive system here in Buncombe County. If you're caught with a dirty needle, you go to, that's what's called considered a prior, and then you can be hauled into jail for that. So that's why people use and drop the needle. And so we were just giving people places to put the needles, and we work with an organization called Steady Collective, who goes around and they actually empty these containers out for us with a special lock. And so far it's working really well. It's passive. We don't talk about it too often much because there's a lot of people in the area that feel that if you give somebody a trash can, that you're telling them it's okay to litter. And that is not the case. We are giving we're giving a device, a place where someone can put their needles. This doesn't mean where you say it's okay to use needles. As Terry Scholl can tell you, we have the Plastic Reduction Task Force, which is a group of individuals that are working on trying to reduce our region's dependence on single-use plastics. The number one item in our waterways, as Terry Scholl can tell you, is single-use plastics. It is plastic water bottles. This is the number one item that we get out of here, and it is an absolute waste because that plastic water bottle, if left in our river, is going to continue to break down into smaller and smaller pieces and then travel through the waterways and become food for other benthic creatures. So the Plastic Reduction Task Force is working on that effort. And then finally, the enforcement piece. Now, our organization does not carry a badge, and we are not permitted to arrest anybody. I know that Mike Desvonic would like to arrest some people sometimes for the way that they're acting locally, but we cannot do that. But what we can do, though, is we can safely turn in this information to the correct authorities. So the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality is a great partner with us. We send a lot of information to them as far as what is going on with the region. So when we have someone we find an illegal discharge, we find sewage, we find that a business is trashing an area, doing something, we can reach out to the correct authorities and the issue will be taken care of. And what we want to empower our stream keepers to do is they can turn this information into us anonymously, and we can file these charges. And over the years, we have cleaned up so many things quietly because of this program. The topics today is we're going to go over your equipment that is going to be available to all of the stream keepers. We're going to talk about safety, COVID, sharps, bacteria. We're going to talk about how to clean out the trash trout and how to dispose of the trash afterwards, reporting, and then we're going to talk about future projects after that. As far as it's not all trash trout, even though I'm wearing a beautiful trash trout hat, this is a much larger project that we're talking about here. Lots to do. Look at that cool looking logo there. So one of the things I loved about this is the person who designed this for us, they designed the trout. This is an actual trout. They designed it made out of trash, and I love that. And in the River Arch District, if you're familiar with where New Belgium is located, New Belgium Brewing right there on Riverside Drive, we actually worked with an artist to build a life-size version of this, and we call it the Big Fish. And it's right there at the boat launch. And we actually filled the inside of the fish with trash we got out of the French Broad River. And there's a little sign with it to tell people about this kind of thing, the journey that the French Broad River has been on in the last 47 years. Ever since the Clean Water Act passed, we've been able to take people and businesses to task for polluting our waterways. So, it's got, we've cleaned up 90% of it, but we still have a little ways to go here. So this is our first trash trout. This is located in Hendersonville, North Carolina. Mike Huffman, are you on the call?
I'm here, Eric.
You guys see that rust? That's actually not rust on that trash trout. That is blood from Michael Huffman right there, from all the blood, sweat, and tears that it took him to get that trash trout floating in the water. So Mike, thank you so much for all your hard work that you did to help us put this thing in the water. Mike was the first municipality to believe in this project. We had this project ready to go back in 2016 for Buncombe County. And Buncombe County was a no-go on this. They did not want to install this project. And Michael Huffman worked with the city of Hendersonville, and they saw exactly what it is, which is easy. It's needed, and it's not going to cause any sort of heartache. And so they believed in us right away. I want to say, Mike, from start to finish, it only took him 2 weeks to get city council there to approve it and get it in the water. So it was absolutely incredible. So Mike helps to maintain this particular device. This one here, installed in 2017, has collected over 5,000 pounds of styrofoam, empty water bottles, tires. I mean, here recently, Mike, what did you guys get out of the trash trout on your last clean out?
We got 2 nice propane tanks, 5-gallon propane tanks. We got a couple tires, lots of plastic bottles, lots of styrofoam, the usual suspects. So.
Yeah. And the most common item that you find in the trash trout is what?
Definitely. Well, I'd say the most prolific item is like small pieces of styrofoam, which is really frustrating. Just trying to get all that out. And I'll be honest, that's probably the thing that gets out of the trout the most when we're cleaning it out. But beside next to the styrofoam, it's definitely, you know, plastic bottles of all shapes and sizes. You know, you get your Deer Park water bottles, I mean, we see like fungicide bottles and oil bottles and any plastic, anything that floats and is plastic, you know, ends up in there. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, so this particular device is different from all of the other devices because it is usually in about 8 to 10 foot of water at all times. So we have to paddle out to this particular trash trout to clean it out and then paddle back over. So for those of you that's interested in this particular trap, we do keep a boat and gear, but we also do some extra training with people to make sure that they do know how to paddle, because there is that aspect of cleaning out this particular device. This one here is a typical trash trout junior. So we have two sizes. We have the regular, which is the one you just saw. It's about 10 foot by 20 foot. This one here is our smaller unit we call the trash trout junior, and it measures in at about 4 feet by 2 feet by 8 feet long. And this is perfect for our smaller waterways in the area. And this is the most common trash trout that you'll see. So this one here is, this one's located in the Smith Mill Creek, which is located just off of Emma in sort of that, you know, Emma / River Arch District part of Asheville. And that right there to your right is Laura Anderson. She was water quality coordinator last year, and you'll still see Laura this year. You know, she's working with another organization, but she loves this project so much you'll still see her come around. And notice that we've got our waders on here. Those are chest waders, and that is what we will be giving out to everybody for the project. And from the view of this, the way that we position the trash trout is it's connected by 4 points. And you see the yellow booms in the front here. Those are what guides the trash into the trap itself. The trap is basically just a galvanized metal box on floats that passively captures trash. If you'll notice, there's no bottom in it in the trap, and that is to allow any kind of fish or critters to move in and out of it. So in case they get entrapped when the water is moving really quickly. But back where Laura is standing, there is a gate that swings open. So when we need to clean out the woody debris that it collects, we can just open the gate out and push the woody debris down the stream, because all we're interested in is capturing the trash. If you look to see where our hands are touching, that's actually a sign mount. So this is where we mount a sign on there that tells people what this device is. You know, this is the trash trout. These are the people who are sponsoring it. And it's working out pretty good for us so far. It takes Laura, you know, it takes 2 people to pick this device up and move it around. 4 people is even better if you have to scale up and down the side of a bank. It usually takes 2 days to install. The first day we go out, we measure and install the ground anchors that have to be cemented into the ground. And then the next day we come out, it takes about an hour just to tie everything down and make sure that it's in the right flow portion of the creek. So currently we have 5 devices in the water. We have the Smith Mill Creek, which you just saw a picture of. We have Town Branch, which is in the River Arch District, Haw Creek, Hayes Run, which is located in Marshall, and then we have the Mud Creek trash trout, which is the one in Hendersonville. The future locations we have, so we have Pole Creek and Candler. So if you guys are, if you're familiar with Old Candler Town, as other Candlerites like myself would refer to it as, it'll be in that section, which is going to be tremendous. It'll be about 400 yards from the Hominy Creek. So it'll catch an enormous amount of trash before it gets into the Hominy Creek. This one's under construction. We have one for Sweeten Creek. This one's going to go by the French Broad Brewing. They have a great location there for us to put it. So it'll capture trash, keep it out of the Swananoa River. Richland Creek in Waynesville. This one's going to keep trash from reaching the Pigeon River. And this is the exciting part. I want everybody to just, this part to me is just amazing. We have actually sold 2 of our trash trout devices. This has gotten to be such a big program that people are asking for them all over the place. So we have a group in St. Louis that's coming down on February 9th to pick up their trash trout, to take it back up to St. Louis to put it in the waterway. they are actually in the middle of a grant with EPA to test out our device to see if they can, EPA can start funding these devices all over the US, just to sit passively in waterways to collect trash while we try to come up with a solution to littering. So it's very exciting. It's not something, I hope you know that it's not something that Asheville GreenWorks says, oh my gosh, let's build 1 million of these. We want the littering to stop. We want the trash to stop. We want people to stop using plastics. But in the meantime, while we're waiting on that to happen, we need to put these devices in the water, sadly. These devices tell a story. When somebody goes by and they look in the waterway and they see that it's full of trash, it's telling them there is a problem. The next one we have is going into Boone. It's being purchased by the Catawba Riverkeeper, which is very exciting. They're going to be purchasing one here pretty soon as well, too. And then we have our largest device, which is the Hominy Creek trash trout. It is double the size of our regular trash trout. And we're going to be putting it in the Hominy Creek here in March. And this is going to be a big work day for all of us because we have a crane that's going to come out. It's going to set the booms in the water, set the trash trout in the water. It's going to be an exciting day for all of us. So I'll make sure that's on the calendar. And it'll be a fun day to watch me and Mike Huffman try not to drown. So let's talk about safety for a second. So as I mentioned before, COVID has been a challenge for all organizations, all businesses, and especially ones that gather big groups of people together like Asheville GreenWorks. So one of the things that we have done is we do have a COVID-19 policy for all of our volunteers. And we will send that out to folks who are ready to start working with us so that if they agree to the policy, they'll send it back to us. And basically, it just tells them that we agree to these standards, which is we will wear masks, we will be outside together, we will wear gloves, we will maintain 6 feet of distance between each other, and we will try to keep up our cleanliness with hand sanitizer wipes and such. And this is all what everyone else is doing right now, but we just want to make sure that you realize that your safety is very important to us, and we don't want to become a super spreader for COVID-19. So this is a big deal for us. So we do have some trainings coming up, some additional in-person trainings, which I will tell you those dates. Those are going to be held to small groups of people. All of it's going to be outside, and we're going to make sure that we're going to be super safe with each other until we can get a hold on this pandemic. Needles. So syringes, I can't talk enough about. These guys have been, we've been seeing this growing in our waterways recently, and we want to make sure everybody is trained and aware of these sharps. A lot of folks, like I said earlier, are using and dropping, and sometimes they're getting into our storm drains, which means they get into our creeks. So we will train folks who are ready for this on how to find them and how to properly put them into a sharps container, which we will issue to everyone. And then most importantly, and this is something we have said for 47 years, if you don't feel safe picking something up, leave it alone. A piece of garbage is not worth your life. This is where your comfort level is. So if you see something you don't feel comfortable with, you can report it back to us and you don't have to touch it. This is something that has done us well all these years to make sure that we don't push people into situations where they feel unsafe. Unless you're Mike Dozvonic, Phil Blockland, and Mike Huffman, then those guys have to do everything for us. So biohazardous waste, bacteria, and chemicals. Sharps and syringes, we already talked about. But let's talk about bacteria for a second, more specifically E. coli. I know that this is something that has been in the news a lot in the last 3 or so years, but I want to talk to you about where it comes from and how it could get inside of you. So pretty much all of our waterways are going to contain some strain of E. coli. All of us living right now contain E. coli in our gut, and it's actually extremely important that we have E. coli there because it helps to produce a substance in our body called K2, which is extremely important for the rest of our digestive systems. E. coli from other sources like farms and sewage and the different forms of E. coli that we come in contact with, though, are more virulent and can harm some people. And how that they're getting into humans is the important part I want to talk to you about. Just having E. coli soaked water splashed onto your skin is not going to give it to you. It has to be able to come inside of your person. So there are a few things that you have to think of. If you have an open wound, you don't want to be putting your open wound into pretty much any waterway, regardless if our waterways or if you're in anywhere else in the country. If you have a compromised immune system, so if you've had an immuno disorder, if you've taken a lot of antibiotics recently, if you're If you're very, very young, if you're an infant, or you've just had surgery, you don't want to get into any waterway, no matter where it's at in the country. And also the consumption of contaminated water. Our friends at the CDC and EPA have put out some information about how much river water you'd have to consume to pick up E. coli, and it's really it's a lot. But the problem is you have to take into account of what your physical shape is at that time as well too. So if you have a system that's in decline, you are obviously going to be more likely to pick up E. coli. So what we tell our volunteers is, if you're using our waders, if you're getting in and out of waterways, is to just be smart about it, and say to yourself, you know what, I've been on a 2-week antibiotics for a stomach bug or whatever I've had. I probably shouldn't get in the water right now. I probably shouldn't be around people right now. But also, if you are getting into places like this, just rinse off yourself or when you're done. Being aware of your surroundings, and then keeping your tools and your waders clean, and you're going to be perfectly fine. Pollution such as petroleum-based products, solvents, paints, things like that are going to be present in our urban waterways. And that's because we still have a problem with people illegally dumping these chemicals into storm drains. So one part of a StreamKeeper program is going to be supporting the efforts of going into neighborhoods and spreading information and putting flyers out, especially in areas where we know people are dumping into storm drains. So we're going to have a targeted campaign where we're going to go in and give out some information and literature to neighborhoods to say, we've had a problem. I've got a dear friend of mine named Ruben who is on this call. Ruben lives in one of the most amazing neighborhoods of South French Broad, and they are one of the most active and awesome neighborhoods in the downtown area. We do a lot of great projects with them. And we actually, with the help of his neighborhood a few years ago, we found a local painter who was coming home on South French Broad, and at night he was dumping out all of his paint from the day and washing it out into the storm drain, which would turn the town branch completely white every afternoon, every sort of evening. And so we had people, taking pictures. We did some point source pollution detection where we kept going to different storm drains and waiting and watching. And with the help of the South French neighborhood, we found out it was coming from their storm drains. So we were able to do a pinpoint, go up through the neighborhood and put out some letters to some folks and stop that right away. No one went to jail. Nobody, nothing like that happened. We just wanted them to know that people were watching, and you cannot do this kind of thing. So let's talk about your tools. Chest waders. We have a set of different types of chest waders that we'll offer to you to take home and to take care of. We have different kinds. We have kinds that are neoprene insulated waders, like this nice lady's wearing here in the picture. We also have the kind that you saw I was wearing a second ago right here, which are not insulated. So there's different types that we have for the different conditions. We also have rubber boots as well too that you can wear with them, because what's funny about these waders is the waders are kind of they're sized for all sorts of different people, and then the boots are sized for all sorts of different people. So it'll take a little while to get your right size with your boot as well too, but we'll work it out. We have an electronic scale that will go in your top pouch of your waders. This is a really easy device to use to weigh your trash afterwards. You have your sharps container, your grabber. Gloves are not pictured, but obviously you know what gloves look like. And then bags and vests. But then there's also this blue tub that's down here. So we've started using these blue tubs out in the waters. So when we are doing a cleanup next to the trash trout, it's kind of inconvenient to hold a trash bag while you're trying to put your objects inside of it. So we're starting to use these tubs because they float, and you can have it floating next to the trash trout, and you can just set the items into the trash trout and then carry it up to the bank, dump the water out of it, and then dump those contents into your bags. So this has worked out a lot better for us. Everybody's going to get your tub as well too. And this is just a nice place to carry your stuff as well. So you can put all your things back in your tub, put it in the back of your car, and off you go again. So very clever, huh? So let's talk about the clean out and inspection piece of the process. And I'm sorry for all the words here, but I'm just gonna go over it really quickly with you, because I hate reading presentations. But basically, when we come up to our trash trouts, basically your trash trout's going to be full every time it rains. So if you've adopted a specific trash trout to keep an eye on, and you're wondering if it's going to be full of trash, pretty much if we receive any kind of rain event, that there's going to be trash in that trash trout, because it's going to be picked up from the sides of the roads into the storm drains and then down the creek. So you could pretty much bet on it. So if we've had a nice rain, you can go down to your device, and then you can decide if it's enough trash in there to spend your time to go in and get it out. And so it's up to you to decide. You know, it can sit there for a couple of weeks, obviously, until you're ready to get in there to clean it out. So what we want for you to do is, you know, look at your time, obviously, and how you want to do this. And then get to your trash trout, check your surroundings, and take a photo of your trash trout real quick, and make sure that you feel safe and everybody looks good. You know where your car is and your keys and everything's right there where you're supposed to be at. There's no strangers that's walking around and spooking you. So you're ready for that piece of the process. You don your gear, and then you begin your visual inspection of the trap itself. So we'll train you to look at all the lines, look at the booms, look at the way the cage is and its connection points, because, you know, it's a tool at the end of the day, and it's going to get wore out eventually. So we want to keep up with that kind of thing. The one in the Smith Mill Creek was trashed here recently because of our friends at Norfolk Southern. The railroad guys were doing construction there, and they tore out the connection points. So we have to go back in, and we're going to have to reinstall it. So that just happens, you know, somebody who doesn't care about our device or wants to damage it or something. This is a great way for us to keep eyes on it. As we go in, we do a visual inspection of it. And if we do see something wrong with it, broken, dislodged parts, or purposeful damage, we'll go ahead and report that directly into us. Number 3, do not access the trash trout when the water is too high. If it's still raining or the water is really moving, that's not a good time to get in the water for one of our regular trash trouts. Let the water go down and make your decision as far as when you want to go in there. Our chest waders are great, but you never want to go in with chest waders above your waist. Anything above that, if you were to trip and go into that water, your chest wader is going to fill up with water, and you're going to have a really bad afternoon. So what we tell folks is when you're wearing chest waders, is to make sure never go in above your waist when you're in the water. So once it's safe and you're going to get into the water, take your usable tote with you with all of your tools, set it in the water. It'll float right next to you, and then begin the process of using your grabber to pick out your trash. Pick out your trash, drop it into your tote. Obviously, if it's man-made, we want to get it out of there. If it's woody debris, obviously that can stay in the creek. But you want to use your grabber to push things around inside of there to make sure that you're not putting your hand into something that could be dangerous. Even though you're wearing gloves, even though you're being cautious, it happens to everybody. So we want to make sure you use your trash grabber. We also, some people carry along, I think we may still have it on the trash trout in Mud Creek, but it's is it like a rake or something that you guys have, or a hoe, Mike, that you guys use occasionally?
Yeah, I've used all types of garden equipment out there, like a gravel rake for the bigger trash trout. It works well to kind of just move stuff around. Bottles will get, pushed up under the flotilla of woody debris. And then also like a big fishing net, like one of those cheap aluminum ones is good for kind of getting some of that smaller styrofoam. But yeah, any kind, like I'd say a sturdy gravel rake works well. For the smaller ones, you're not going to have as much, but I know, and then on the big Mud Creek trash trout, which you guys will probably have the same situation on Hominy Creek, is like really big wood will get stuck in there. And it's good to have some kind of long object that can kind of grab onto that material to maneuver it out of the trash trout or out of the front where the booms are and stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, you can, one of the things that's helped us every time we've gotten out there is usually you'll find a stick. There's always a stick, and you just use that stick, and you can kind of poke things around with it as well too. But yeah, your grabber works really good to move things around to get out the pieces. So once you've removed all the man-made trash, you can go to the back and open up the gates. We have a little gate back there. You open it up, and you can just push out the woody debris and let that flow down the creek. And when you're pushing out the woody debris, then you can, some of the things that might have gotten caught under it, you can grab out at that moment in time. So once the trout is cleaned, you go ahead and close up the gate. You transfer your trash from your tote back over to your trash bags, and make sure to empty out all the water that you can. Now, so this is something that's interesting we've had to talk to volunteers about, is if you have a bottle and you're positive that you know what the substance is in that bottle, and you feel like it's a soda pop, or if it's a, you know, it's a drinkable beverage, it's okay to dump it into the creek. If it is a golden color beverage in a container that normally doesn't contain a golden color beverage, we don't pour those out. That's most likely someone's human fluid that has been transferred into those bottles and then thrown out on the side of the road. And I tell you, I really don't understand why people do that. It is mind blowing. But we do find a lot of those bottles, water bottles with a golden solution inside of it that we don't want to dump that out. And it's the same goes for if you find a petroleum bottle or something along those lines that is full of petroleum or some other chemical that shouldn't be in there. We're not going to dump those out. But we don't want to have water in our trash, which will skew the weight. So we want to make sure that all of our weight is just the trash. And so that's the really nice thing about dumping from the tote over to your bag, because sometimes your bags can fill up with water really easily while you're out there. The final thing to do is deposit your trash along the nearest busy road closest to your trash route. So you'll tie your trash up and you'll set it by the road, and you've weighed your trash. So you've got your findings. So you've gotten 14 pounds of trash. You're ready to go. You set your bag over there on the side of the road. You've contacted our organization, contacted Sam and said, hey, I've got 2 bags setting over on, it's setting over on Riverside Drive, right there across from Asheville Waste Paper, ready to be picked up. And we work to get those trash bags picked up. Now, there is a reporting piece to this. I want to show you this on this next slide here. This is, we have a sheet. It's a trash trout data sheet. And if you look at the bottom of the sheet here, you can see the various devices. We have Mud Creek, Hominy Creek, Town Branch, Haw Creek, Smith Mill, Pole Creek, all the different ones at the bottom down here. And it has all of the information up here that you can put in as much information as you want in here. So if you wanted to say it was Marianne, Michael, and Terry on this particular date, we got 3 bags of trash, it weighed this much. And you can add, if you want to, the type of trash you've got. This is really helpful for us when we're having conversations with the city and the county as far as what types of trash we're collecting. But you can just go all the way through the form here, and you can just fill out as much as information as you want to put in. But our critical information we want to know is what date, who did it, how many bags, how much it weighed. Those are the things we really want to do, because we're capturing all this information so that we can report to people of these devices. This is a Google sheet. And for those who are interested, what we'll do is we'll share it with you so that you'll have access to the sheet so you can update it. Here's a picture of one of our superstar volunteers. He's actually one of our volunteer leaders. His name is Nelson. He's on the left. You'll see Nelson. He helps actually build our devices. And this is Sam Rames. So this is Sam. She's on the Haw Creek Trash Trout Junior right now, cleaning it out. And this is before we had the idea of the tote. So what we had to do was we just set the bag up on the side of the trash trout, and we would put the trash inside of it. And notice how Sam's using her grabber, and all of our grabbers, we put a little noodle, a pool noodle on there. And that's because we learned the hard way that those things don't float. So so we find things out the hard way at Asheville GreenWorks, and we try to work out all the kinks. And so yeah, your grabber is going to have this neon green pool float attached to it, and that doesn't add much weight to it, but it'll really be nice if you accidentally drop it in the water. So so we have our tools there that we go in, and as you can see here, this is at Haw Creek. This is pretty much what Haw Creek looks like most of the time. You know, it's about 6 to 8 inches deep at the point where the trap is, and it's easy to get to. And what's nice is when on a clear day like this, is you can really look around in the waterway to see what's going on. You know, is there any other trash that we missed, that kind of situation. And where Haw Creek is located here, the Haw Creek trash trout is about 50 feet away from the Swannanoa River. So it's beautiful right here, and it keeps all that trash from getting into the Swannanoa. So let's talk about those incoming in-person trainings that's coming up. So you can mark your calendar for them. I'm going to set up a Google group. You know, some of you may be familiar with the Google group. What it is you don't have to have a Google email to do this, but if you want, I will send you an invite, and you will be on a message board where we can talk only to StreamKeepers to each other. So we're only speaking to each other inside of here, and you don't have to keep up with everybody's email addresses. You can just email the group and say, hey, this is Jeff. I'm going down to Haw Creek on Thursday. Can somebody come and help give me a hand or whatever? You can do this, and we can also put up, like, we have some more training that's coming down. We have a tree that's stuck in one of the devices. We're going to chainsaw out. We need a little extra help. We're going to do some more advocacy work around littering. All that kind of stuff can go here so that you can see what fits in with your passion, and you can answer that cause. So that'll be on the Google group. So you'll see an invite come from me on that. And if you don't want to be on the Google group, I'm not going to force you to be there, but it would help as far as communication so that we can all talk to each other about the project and about, the help and what we need to do moving forward. So these are the 3 dates, February 13th. Each one of these are Saturday. We're going to try to do it in the middle of the day where it's the warmest part. So 1 to 3 o'clock. We'll meet up at our Riverside office each time, and we'll go down to the closest device, which is located at, it's only about a quarter mile away down in the River Arch District, the Town Branch trash trout, and we'll just run through the basics. We'll answer a bunch of questions. We'll look at how the device is secured. What are the things that we're looking for? Just go through the safety talk. And for those of you that's going to be working on the bigger trash trout in Mud Creek, myself and Mike Huffman will make a separate time that we'll meet you out there, because obviously it's a different fish altogether. It is, you have to paddle out to it. What are the safety measures that we take, wearing our PFDs, all the things that we do out there to keep that safe on that particular trash trout as well. So once we get in deeper to this project and you say, you know what, yes, I love, oh yes, this is exactly what I've been waiting for. I want to adopt the Haw Creek trash trout. I want my tools. I want to get in there and start working on it. And then we'll set up a time to meet you, to get you all of your gear, get you set up where your device is, the best place to park, the best place to work on it, and just get you going from there and give you all the support in the world that we can. This is a brand new program, so we're going to base a lot of it off of our existing program, which is the StreamKeeper program. But this doesn't mean we have it figured out. So we want this to be a back and forth with you, so you can tell us how to improve this program. Be like, Eric, it would be great if, and we're going to totally listen to that, because the best programs we have at Asheville GreenWorks were grown by our volunteers and the residents who've told us what they needed and have told us how to put these things together. Most importantly, I don't see any way that you could possibly protect our waterways or clean out anything unless you have the proper gear. And so we have these really, really sweet trash trout trucker hats that you're welcome to have if you'd like. We also have our brown GreenWorks t-shirts that wash really well. They're made out of recycled cotton and recycled plastic, so they don't hold smells all that well. So we do have some tools that we want to give you as well too. And I do also want to tell you, for our volunteers, that we try to send out all sorts of really great offers that come down the pipe for our volunteers. So if we have a lot of sponsors, so there's all sorts of different things that you'll see come up in your email box. Like we just partnered up with our friends at Ware here recently, and they wanted to send a thank you to our volunteers. So you'll see some weird things like that pop up occasionally. Like you'll see, you get 50% off here, you get this, you get that, here's some extra training that's coming in from another organization if you want to sit in on this. So we want to try to give you guys as much as we possibly can, because you are giving us so much with your time and effort. This is my contact information here. It's you've probably seen my email, so you can keep that there if you'd like as well. But I'd like to open it up in this last 10 minutes to questions. And so if you want to unmute yourself and ask some questions, please do so, and I will stop recording as well.